word from the Lord today. For those of you that have your Bibles, we'll be looking in the book of Obadiah. And we're going to try to close out in the book of Numbers, chapter 20. And we're going to try to cover all the scriptures, as many as we can in the book of Obadiah. Can anybody tell me how many books there are in Obadiah? Oh, y'all got to find. Oh, the pastor back here, Pastor Dodd said just one. Yeah, just one book in the book of Obadiah. So we're gonna deal with that. And also we're going to try to close out with Numbers chapter 20. But for our subject matter, we still want to talk about when God has had enough. And we need to realize that God is long-suffering, and it's not his will that anyone would die, perish, and go to hell. And we need to realize that God's judgments can be swift. He can delay them for years. He can delay them for months. But if he put his word out there on something, it may be 10 years from now, but guess what? It's going to come to pass. Now, basically what the book of Obadiah is dealing with is with the destruction of the Edomites. And the Edomites came from Esau. And basically, this book is going to point out some judgments that has already taken place dealing with people and how they treated the children of Israel. But there are still future judgments that are going to take place. Now you're going to have the judgment of the Jews, and this is going to be during the tribulation period, so they not all the way out of the fire. But the judgment of the Jews will take place, and what this judgment is going to be for them to realize that their king, that their Messiah, Jesus, did come the first time, and they rejected him. But what's going to happen at this judgment is that they're going to receive Jesus as their Messiah. So they're going to believe, the second time around. And then you have also the judgment of the nations. And the judgment of the nations are dealing with how you treated Christ's brethren right now and during the tribulation period, the Jews. So basically, the Edomites, they were the descendants of Esau, the twin brother of Jacob. And you know the history behind Jacob and Esau. Jacob was really a trickster. Esau really was a hunter, but he went out hunting one day, and when he came back home, he was so hungry that he felt as if though he was going to die. And Jacob, I'll just say a pot of pinto beans, we all can identify with that. Jacob was cooking a pot of pinto beans, and those beans were smelling so good, Esau was so hungry. He even traded his birthright. He gave up his rights for a bowl of pinto beans. He had to be hungry. So the Jews came from Esau, the Jews came from Jacob, and the Edomites came from Esau, therefore making them kind of like brotherly nations. In other words, they should have been there for each other. One should not have fallen without the other one. But we're going to find out that was not the case. Now, when you look at the book of Obadiah, verse 1 is a call to the nations by an ambassador or an envoy, and most of the time it's saying it's really an angel of the Lord. So in verse 1, we find out that the vision is given how Edom gonna be humbled. And some of us right now, we walk around like, hey, I'm the fourth person in the Godhead. But I need to tell you today that you don't need to cross the bridges or burn the bridges that you cross over. Because sometimes you may need to cross back over that same bridge. But these Edomites, man, they were something. They didn't think anybody could destroy them. They thought they was invincible. But we're going to find out that God is the God of all battles, and he's never lost one. Right. But when you look at verse 1, it's a call to the nations against Edom and calls for war against them. In other words, God put his approval upon other tribes and told them in so many words, now, I want y'all to go in and you're going to destroy Edom. And back during that day, they had a custom. If I was an ambassador and I visited your country, then what they would do is that they would give me safe passage back to the border, saying that, hey, man, we still cool. They let me come back to the border. They didn't try to kill me or nothing like this. But this is what deceived the Edomites. They had made a covenant with and allies with certain nations, and they was really deceived. Right. They believed that, hey, they taking me back to the border. That means the covenant is still good. That means that I'm still in good with them. But I need to give you a warning today. You need to be careful who you partner with. Everybody that shake your hand, hug you around your neck, say, oh, girl, I just love that dress you got on. Man, those are some fine shoes you got on. Some things you just need to let come in one ear and go out the other one. Everybody don't have your best interest in hand. But the Edomites, they had made a covenant with these particular people, and they thought, hey, it's all gravy, man, it's all good. But they didn't know that God had spoken to them and told them that you're going to go up, you're going to utterly destroy these Edomites. But what happened is that they allowed the people to lead them out. They thought everything was peaches and cream. And the Edomites, I mean, they had a sense of false pride. God going to destroy them because of their pride also, when you really study this. But what happened is that they was trusting in their dwelling places because they was high up and in mountains, and they thought, well, hey, can't nobody defeat us. You know, can't nobody defeat us. Look at us. We got our homes in the cleft of these rocks, and they got to come up to try to destroy us, so no army could really put a full attack out on them. But I need to tell you, when God has your number, you can be up under a piece of tin. You can be the lowest of the lowest. You can be as high as you can go. You can be in the deepest valley. You can be in the deepest sea. But if God says something is going to happen, it's going to happen. But these Edomites, they was trusting in their dwellings, and they thought they was really secure. They was a proud people. And I think some said that some trust in chariots and some trust in horses. And I need to tell you today, if your trust is in anybody other than the one who made the horses and made the chariots, then you trusting in the wrong one. But these Edomites, you go on, they really were deceived. Obadiah goes on to tell them that your population is going to be greatly reduced as a result of divine judgment. Now, when God say it's going to rain, put your buckets out. If he say it's not going to rain, don't put your buckets out. I don't care. All the signs of rain might be there, But if God says it's not going to rain, it's not going to rain. And then all the signs of no rain could be there. But when God says it's going to rain, guess what? It's going to rain. So we need to be careful who we put our trust in. It's okay to have a ride die, I think that's what they called it. But you need to make sure that they're not a backstabber. Y'all remember that song, Backstabber? You know, I'm hugging you, but I'm stabbing you in the back all at the same time. That's not brotherly love. Now, once again, Edom thought no one was able to defeat them because of their security and pride. And their pride was in, once again, their dwelling places among the rocks and the cliffs. But Edom was deceived. See, man will make a covenant or an agreement with you today, but when times get tough, when times get hard, that same covenant that he made with you or that agreement, he will break it. That's true. So man is a covenant breaker, but God is a covenant keeper. Amen. Look at Israel. Because of the covenant he made with Abraham, that's the only reason why Israel was never consumed. But God at his own time, when he's had enough, he's had enough. Now, we look at the children of Israel, how God had delivered them out of Egyptian bondage. And when you go on to finish reading this, you'll find out that they actually were destroyed. They didn't do like Saul. Saul kept part of the animals, for sacrifice, the goods and all that. But these Edomites were going to totally be destroyed. And it say now, not a handful of them, not a portion of them, not a majority of them, but all of them was going to be wiped out. That's a hard pill to swallow there. You just got a promotion on your job making $10,000 a month. You just built a new house, just got a new car and all this, and here God is telling you getting ready to die. How would you deal with that? You may do like Hezekiah, turn your face to the wall, and he may add years to your life, but when God says something, we need to make sure we're hearing exactly what he's saying and do exactly what he told us to do. Because Saul didn't exactly do everything God told him to do. Partial obedience is not total obedience. You may have partially done something right, but if you didn't do it the way God said do it, then you was disobeying him. But we're going to find out that all of them was going to be cut off. And then Obadiah gave some reasons why the judgment was going to come upon Edom. First of all, Edom's violence against his brother Jacob, you find that in verse 10. And then Edom's hostile attitude toward the Jews, you'll find that in that particular chapter also. But when Edom stood back and failed to help the Israelites when foreigners attacked them, now you're supposed to be my brother. And God is judging them because, am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am my brother's keeper. Now Edom was supposed to be right there with the Jews and Jerusalem and all them, but when the enemy came and saw them attacking and saw that the Jews was losing, they did like a lot of us. We just stood there and watched. Didn't do nothing. Didn't lift a finger to help nobody. But they should have helped their brethren defeat the enemy. But what they did, when they saw that they was losing the battle, they wanted to join in with the enemy. Be careful how you choose your friends. When you're on the battlefield, are they with you or against you. I remember back in the day, I had a carload of guys. I thought they was actually with me. Police, came and threatened to whip me and this, that, and the other. They say, man, why did you talk to the police officers the way you did? I said, I talked to them the same way they was talking to me. They threatened to whip me and do a whole lot of stuff. And they say, now, if you want to jump on somebody, jump on me. And I was full of it. So I told them, I said, look, man, you haven't given me a reason to jump on you. But if you do give me a reason, don't think I won't. Hand by his gun, just shaking. I still didn't sober up until I went back to my car, but that's enough of that. But what I'm saying is that when you really think that people are with you, you expect them to be with you through thick and thin. Somebody might say through hell and high waters. If I'm with you, I'm with you. But if I'm not, I'm not. And Edom, they proved that they were not with the children of Israel. And then the Bible tells them now, don't even go into the gates. Don't even look at their calamities. When stuff like this happened, don't even look at them. But guess what? They were rejoicing because Jerusalem was captured. Some people are not very happy with you. They may say, that's a nice car you got. And as soon as you turn your back, they're talking about you. I know I had a 76 Cadillac Seville. It was clean. And I had some people that asked me, how could you afford a car like this? Even when I was working on the job, people peeping out the window every day. Whose car is that? I'm sitting back laughing now. So they saw me get in it one day, so eventually they found out whose car it was. But I replied to this guy. He was a businessman. See, everybody that rides in a good, clean automobile is not selling drugs. They thought I was a drug dealer because of my car. But you know what I told him? I say, God gave me this car, and I give my tithes and offerings. That's how I'm affording this car. He shut up. But you need to be careful who your friends are. Everybody that say they're with you are not with you. And then they rejoiced over their calamity. Everybody pat you on your back, say, baby, I feel what you feel. No, you don't feel what they feel unless you actually been through what they have gone through. You may can sympathize with them, but you still don't feel what they feel. And then they laughed at God's people during their calamity. And what happened is that they joined forces with the enemy. When it came to getting the spoils, or somebody say the booty, B-O-O-T-Y, I guess that's how you spell it. But the Edomites, they even joined in to go in and get the spoils of their brothers. They weren't supposed to mess with their wealth. But they did this. And then in verse 17 through 21, it talks about the restoration of Israel, how they're going to be restored one day. And then we want to look at the book of Exodus, chapter 20. And this is just a call to remembrance. Here they are in the book. Did I say Exodus? No. Numbers, my bad. Thank you, Deacon Michael Larkin. But the book of Numbers. But when God has had enough, he's had enough. When you look in the book of Numbers, chapter 20, you'll find out that Miriam, Moses' sister, had died. But the point I really want to pull out of this is that the same Edomites, the same group of people, when the children of Israel wanted to go through their land to get to their destination, they wouldn't let them go. Right. So God knew all this. So what I'm saying, he just delayed the judgments. And then when they got to a certain place, they began to complain about, we don't have water. We don't have this. But God wanted to call some things back to their attention. Do you remember? And you know, it's good for us sometimes to look back and remember when we were just like the children of Israel. Some of us, we didn't have shoes to wear. Some of us, we ate ketchup and light bread sandwiches. Y'all don't know nothing about that. Some of us ate syrup and bread sandwiches. You know, we had ham. I see a hand waving back there. Amen, brother. Some of us ate mayonnaise and bread sandwiches. But guess what? We was we was full. We didn't go hungry. Sometimes we need to look back and see exactly where God has brought us from. Some of us, we have more now than we ever had in our lives. But just like the children of Israel, we'll complain. There was a time in my life when I couldn't take 2 nickels to rub them together to make a dime. Y'all might say, no, yeah. And some of us right now, we need to look back over our lives and see just how far God has brought us. Yeah, he was food when you was hungry. That's anthropomorphication, giving God a mouth, hands, feet, and legs and all that, so we can understand that. But he was water in dry places for us when we got thirsty. He's done so much for us. But he wanted the children of Israel to remember. You remember when you was in Egypt? How y'all cried out, and I heard y'all cry. And I delivered all of y'all. Even some foreigners came out with y'all, but I delivered y'all. You remember how I sent the frogs? See, when God gets enough, when he's fed up with things, he's got a way of sending the frogs. Not only that, he had the water turn into blood. And we know that Jesus turned water into wine. He called to remember. You remember the lice? You remember how the Egyptian cattle died? You remember the boils? You remember the hail? You remember the plague of locusts? You remember when there was darkness all over Egypt, but you had light in your camp? Do y'all remember that? Do you remember when I rode at midnight and killed the firstborn of every Egyptian? Do y'all remember that? But not only that, when I was leading y'all out of Egypt, I was a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Y'all don't seem to remember that. And the reason why you don't remember that, because you complaining right now. You complaining about water and this, that, and the other, but I was always taught a bird in the hand is better than 2 in the bush. And then we go on and he gives instructions to Moses. Tell Moses now, I want you to do this so that people would know that I really am God. I want you to speak to the rock. But Moses took his rod. He smoked the rock twice. Here, we say now, you rebels, y'all want something to drink? I'm going to give you water to drink. Boom, boom. Out of anger, he smoked the rock. But that ain't what God told him to do. He told him to speak to the rock. And because of this, your brother Aaron, he going to die. You might as well go on up on the mountain, undress him, put his priestly garment on his son, because Aaron is going to die today. He died. And then they steady complain. Serpents, brazen serpents of fire came and began to bite them, and they began to die. But then he told Moses, you see, sometimes the things that cause you pain can be the same thing that heal you. He told Moses, now you go and you build a little serpent, put him up on a pole, And everybody that look up, tell them if they look up, they're going to live. And I need to tell you today, the power is not in looking up. I know we had a thing one time. We see people coming, we just walk, we start looking up. Everybody else start walking, looking up. Never asked what you was looking for. But the power is that when you confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you can be saved. But he told Moses, now, if they want to live, tell them to look up. And if you want to live today, you need to learn how to look up. You need to look up to the one who unstopped their fields. You need to look up to the one who opened blinded eyes. You need to look up to the one who cut loose the stabbing tongue. You need to look up to the one who pulled bread out of bread and fish out of fish. You need to look up to the one that raised Jairus' daughter from the dead. But you need to look up to the one who said, and if I be lifted up from the earth, I'll draw all men unto me. Yes, they took Jesus and they marched him from judgment hall to judgment hall. They put him over a pole and they beat him and tore the flesh, but not a bone of him was broken. Oh, they pulled a beard from his face. They put a crown of thorns on his head. And the final analysis of it all, they put a cross on his shoulder. And I can see Jesus in my sanctification, sanctified mind, walking on up to Calvary. The cross got heavy. They compelled a man by the name of Simon of Cyrene to bear the cross after Jesus bear the cross. And I need to tell you today that there is a cross for everyone, and there's a cross for me. But they took him up to Calvary, and when he got up there, they nailed his hand, they nailed his feet, and they put the cross down in the hole. Two other malefactors was crucified with him. One began to mock, saying, if you say who you are, then why don't you come off the cross, save yourself, and save us also? But the other thief said, man, we deserve what we are getting. This man hadn't done anything wrong. Even Pilate washed his hands of the matter and say, I find no fault in him. But I need to tell you today the final analysis of it all. Jesus died until the S-U-N sun refused to shine. Jesus died until the graves were open. But before Jesus died, he said, Father, Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. But even before that, Jesus said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? When they got to Jesus, he was dead already. They break the legs of the two malefactors. But a soldier took out a spear and pierced Jesus in his side. Out came blood and water. And I need to tell you today that there is a fountain filled with blood. Not drawn from Pastor Dodd's veins, not drawn from Pastor Anderson's veins, not drawn from any of these ministers' veins, not drawn from any of the deacons or none of your veins, but there is a fountain filled with blood drawn from Emmanuel's veins. And sinners can plunge beneath that great flood and lose all their guilty stain. But that ain't how the story ends. My time was out 3 minutes ago. But that ain't how the story ends. They took him off the cross, wrapped him up like a mummy, laid him in Joseph's brand new tomb. He stayed there for 72 hours. But early that Sunday morning, he got up. They didn't roll the stone back for him. He had already gotten out of the grave. They just rolled the stone back so unbelieving world could see. But the same Jesus, not another one, not a Jesus of your imagination, is coming back one day. And my question to you are, will you be ready to go back with him when he comes? Because see, God, when he had, and America can't help but come to my mind. When God has had enough with America, what's going to happen?
Well, bless the Lord. Didn't he come to preach?